Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast, where we explore essential principles that empower athletes to learn life's most valuable lessons through sports.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast. We are so honored to be joined by two BYU cheerleaders, Ammon and Aislee, Ammon Montenegro and Aislee Meachum. And you might recognize the last name Meachum. We've had Doug Meachum on our podcast a couple of times, and Aislee, you have the honor, or I guess Doug has the honor of being your father-in-law, right? That's awesome. And Aislee, you went to Crimson Cliffs High School,
Yep,
and
that's right.
I imagine you were a cheerleader there at Crimson Cliffs. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then now you're up at BYU, and Ammon first came into my life. I still remember, Ammon. It was 5 years ago, and you were a football player at Snow College.
This time. I think it was October General Conference.
Yeah, you came over for October General Conference to our house. We fed you guys. My daughter Emma was a dancer, a bachelorette at Snow College, and she said, "Can I bring a few friends for General Conference?" and brought half of Snow College with her. And so I have fed Ammon, but you were a football player at the time at Snow College, and then after that year, I believe, is when you switched over and used all that weightlifting and strength to become a member of the Spirit Squad there at Snow, and then went to BYU. Do I have the timeline correct?
Yeah, I mean, I did both cheer and football both years. Busy years, but they were a lot of fun.
Yeah. How cool. How cool. And so thank you both for joining us. I told you a little bit in our pre-meeting here that a lot of those who join our program and participate in Especially for Athletes come from our Spirit Squads in the high school. And so we've been wanting to do one of these podcasts for a long time. And maybe let me start out with a question for the two of you. And that is this. We have a principle, it's called Win the Hour. We try to help young people be intentional with their time. And sometimes you've seen the shirts like Win the Day and things like that, that we think that's a little too general, right? Because when you get down to actually being good at something and taking enough time out of your day to be a college cheerleader, for example, and do good in school, and do good in your community, and go to all the games. That takes being very intentional with your time. And so we tell young athletes to learn to win the hour, look at every hour of every day during transitions, and to ask themselves, how am I going to win this next hour of my life? What does it look like to win that? And so as you've tried to manage, because I've been to a lot of BYU sports, and the cheerleaders are always there. It really doesn't matter what the sport is or when it is. So you two must have incredibly busy schedules, and you participate in a super technical sport that requires a lot of repetition and a lot of reps in the weight room and all of that. What have you learned about time management that if you could go back and talk to your 15-year-old selves, 16-year-old selves, you'd say, hey, here's some things that would really help you that I've learned as I've juggled all these things in college that I wish I would have known when I was 15. Does that make sense, that question? Okay. Aislee, let's lead off with you. What would you tell yourself?
Yeah, so you definitely have to be intentional, just like you said, because we're so busy. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is you have to have that mindset. Something I've been thinking a lot of lately is like that it's a privilege to have the work and to have just the amount of opportunities we have. It's a privilege. So you got to take that privilege up and have the mindset of like working hard and being efficient with your work. Because if not, the hour is going to go by and you're in the next activity already. You know, you got to get that homework done already. So I think just having that mindset of like knowing what you're doing is important. And then from there, being a good planner and just being able to plan out. I plan out my months, then my weeks, then hour by hour even, you know. And once you have that plan in mind, and then you can, when it gets to each hour at a time, taking that next best step, right? Then you can conquer it when it gets there and just focus on in that moment, then go on to the next hour.
Yeah, Awesome. And before we come to Ammon, can I ask a follow-up question there? We'll give Ammon all the time to think here. So you say you plan, you plan your month, you plan your week, and then I imagine there's taking a look at the calendar and planning your day. For some that, oh yeah, I totally get what she's saying, but can you tell us like what processes have you put in place? What does that look like for you to do that?
So I actually have this little, like, I love things to be written and like in paper, not only just like on technology, which I do use my calendar on my phone and can see my day to day, hour by hour. But I love writing things physically down. So I have a school calendar, and I actually have, like, for classes, for instance, I have a different color of pen for each class. So I will put in different colors and my due dates for each class each day. And I love this because I can look at each day and say, okay, this is what I need to get done. It's not just broad due dates of like this essay on the 20th. It's like the step-by-step process almost, because you can't just get an essay all done in 1 hour. Like when I get to that day, I don't want to have to procrastinate and then be stressed out to get done. I want to see the step-by-step progressions to get that assignment done. So it's so nice to physically write this down on paper. It helps my brain so that I can see each day what I need to do in order to accomplish that goal.
So if I'm picturing this correctly, like the month, you'll take and say, okay, this is the due date, all of that. The week, this is what I need to get done this week. And then today, it's like, I need to find references for this paper I'm going to write. Like you break down the final things. And
kind of spacing it out a little bit. So then it's not all so much in a little time. I love to see the progression.
Yeah, that's great. And somewhere in there, you have to fit in college cheerleading with all of that. And I assume you do that the same way. You look at the week and you say, what games do I have this week? When's my practices? And then you plan the other stuff around there.
Yeah. I love to see it in a month view first. And then instead of like a planner where you're writing every single day out, flipping the pages, because that month view is kind of good at a glance. Okay, look, this is my month. And then I can take each day into perspective after that.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Ammon, tell us how you do it.
So I used to never write anything down, but since my workload and everything has been so crazy over the past few years, getting a calendar is a big game changer because being able to know what is next, especially with like athletics and practice and everything on top of what you're already doing, is to get to know, like for me, when I have free time throughout my day. And now when it comes down to the free time, it's important because I have to make conscious decisions what I'm going to do. I'm not as meticulous as Aislee, okay? And it might show in my study habits, I mean, I get things done, but there's a lot of really good things that I can be doing. And sometimes it's really easy to find myself kind of like lost on my phone, which I feel like is a big issue for lots of people, because next thing you know, when the hour that you want to win has gone by and you haven't gained anything really, or like progressed or accomplished things that you want to progress. Now, I think a great way, and I learned this on my mission, is weekly planning allows me to sit down, bring all my thoughts together. So, okay, this are the things I want to accomplish. Now, which day that I already have, which day can I work that into cheer, games, and classes? And then what do I want to do each day? And then when it comes down to that day, then I can attack that day. And then whichever part of the day I want to do it, I can attack that hour. And I've learned that just thinking of everything that I want to do without feeling like over exhausted or like there's so much. I like to just break it up, and then exactly what you're saying. But a calendar definitely helps.
Yeah.
That's my biggest takeaway. And one thing I've learned is the older I get, the shorter the days get for some reason, which is kind of crazy.
Two quotes come to mind when I think of the way you guys approach your busy schedules. We share them often. Stephen R. Covey said, you don't prioritize your schedule, you schedule your priorities. And there's another one, I forget who said it, but he said, the bad news is time flies. The good news is you're the pilot. So it's like we have all these things that are important to us, and if we're not intentional, like you said, Ammon, it feels like an hour can fly by. Like we could literally lose an hour just by scrolling through our phone, and we didn't intend to lose that hour. We didn't plan to do it, but there's dreams and goals that we have that are being impacted because we weren't intentional with our time, steering it toward our goals or scheduling our priorities. And for me, I don't know if it's this way with you, and maybe you two could speak to this, but when I have it in front of me, it's harder for me when I'm intentional with my time, I guess is what I'm saying. When I say I want to do this, between this hour and this hour, I want to accomplish this. And between this hour and this hour, I want to accomplish this. I usually do it. But oftentimes when I just kind of let life happen to me, Justin Sua, who you might be familiar with, was a BYU baseball player, went on, and he's the mental performance coach for the Tampa Bay Rays now. But he was on our podcast and he said, we can either live a life by design or by default. And it seems to me that when we're in default mode, we just wake up and let life happen to us. We're very reactionary. It's easy for time to be steered away from those things we really want to accomplish. But when we're intentional with our time, we put it down on paper and we say, this is what I want to accomplish in my day, in my life, in this hour. It's easier to become what we want to become. Does that produce any thoughts? Anything either of you would share that in your own personal journeys, you're like, yeah, I've learned this lesson, and maybe articulate it in the way you would like to? I'd love to hear it.
The consequence of not being intentional, like you're talking about, is I think when we are just like, okay, we'll let it come to me, right? In that default, I think it's easy to get satisfied with where we're at instead of keeping that hunger and drive and motivation to be better, right? We're always on becoming 1% better each day. And so without that intention, I think is when we kind of stay stagnant a little bit. And so it's important to expect more of ourselves, because we are just believe that we're meant for more, and that we can do more. And just, I think, holding yourself to that higher standard can help so much with becoming more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've had the experience, with life and going through different times of the year, different seasons of when I'm really busy and when I'm not as busy. Basically, I've gone through really productive times and then really non-productive times. And there's actually an empowering feeling when I am productive, when those things that I've written down, those things that I've always wanted to get done, check off, make sure I am able to accomplish them. When I do it, I feel more empowered that I can accomplish more in my day. I have the power. And opposite of that, when I am not intentional in that and I scroll on my phone or just do other things, and I know in the back of my mind, I could be doing that, and then I am doing that isn't what I really need to do. It's kind of, I feel like there's a dragging weight or a nagging thing on my mind, and that definitely can impact mental performance, because I think everything begins with the mental perspective and mental performance. And so when I'm productive, when I'm trying to do the things that I've already decided I want to do because I know the outcomes will be good for me and it's things that I need to get done, and I just feel ready to go, more invigorated to just do the next thing. But when I don't do that, man, I feel like your self-esteem goes down. You feel like, oh man, can I really get stuff done? There's just something that happens. And luckily I've experienced both of them, and I know which one I want to continue to feel each day, and that's going out and doing it.
I think it's kind of because we thrive as humans being agents and being in control, which we truly are in so many factors. Of course, there's going to be things in life that aren't in our control, but we thrive off of doing what we can control and being those agents for ourselves.
I have felt the drag of being unintentional that you're talking about, Ammon. Like that feeling of I could have done so much more, either with today or even sometimes that season of my life. You know,
Yeah.
where if I would have known and I would have been more intentional. And I love what you're saying. The act of putting down your priorities on a calendar and going after goals step by step, Aislee, as you talked about, with this is what I want to do, whether it's completing an assignment or accomplishing a big goal in life. When you have it down and you are attacking that goal, it brings this feeling of growth and self-esteem. When we are unintentional and life happens to us instead of us happening to life, when Justice Sua said another statement, when we aren't living life on purpose, with purpose, but we're just in default mode, it just seems to bring a drag into life. And anyone listening to this, especially young people listening to this, who've never put goals down, broke them down, like said, hey, here's what I'm going to do today to get where I want to get. If you haven't experienced the exhilaration of seeing progression in your life and not feeling in default mode, it's really cool to feel that sense of growth and accomplishment. And I think, Aislee, what you said is very true. It's because when we're agents and we're acting instead of being acted upon, it feels better. We feel like we're becoming who we're meant to become. So great stuff, man. No wonder you guys are where you are right now. That's awesome. So on this same subject, maybe, especially to those who are cheerleaders that hope to one day be where you are right now, would you describe the day in the life of a college cheerleader? I would love to know, like, what time you wake up, when you go to practice. Like, describe what a typical day would look like for someone in your shoes.
So, in college, lots of cheer teams practice at different times. I know in Louisville, they actually practice super late, like very late at night. We happen to practice early in the morning. So we start at 7. So I like to be up 5:45, okay, just so I have time to wake up. Because once we start at 7, our bodies are going. And so it's good to have me personally, I just can't roll out of bed and go to practice. I have to do a lot of.
We also have to be aware with like the stunts we're doing and stuff. We have to be so mentally aware.
Yeah. We have to be mentally awake, morally straight on my own out. and so early morning we get up, we go to practice, and it's 2 hours long. And some practices, they're pretty intense, lots of reps. And again, our sport is holding people in the air, holding them well, catching them, lots of stuff. Working as a team, building pyramids, 3 people high. So there's a lot that goes into it. And after practice, we have another hour of weights. And so we go to the weight room and we get stronger. And this is cool because a lot of people on the team, they haven't lifted before college. And so weights is new to them. But every girl has seen progress and every guy has seen progress. By virtue of the guys maybe playing other sports, they probably lifted before in high school and whatnot. But everyone makes progress and they all feel stronger. And we can see it in the weight room, but we can see it at practice. And then after that, the day is full of school and classes. Some people work. And
the work is, I don't know how some people fit that in. Like, I'm lucky enough not to work that often, but because school is so much. Like that sounds light when we just say that at school, but like it's a lot. Like when you college level, like it's a lot of studying hours.
And then let's say we have games that same day. We can have practice and then games that same day.
Appearances, we could just be told that we need to be random place.
And I would say for the girls, it's a lot harder because they Aislee will talk on it, but they have to get ready and it takes a long time. Guys, we have to shower, shave, put our clothes on, like we're ready to go. And then we go to these events 30 minutes before, hour before, 2.5 hours before, depending on what it is.
So you have to get warmed up, be prepared.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the full extent of the game, and then kind of a little bit after. So, yeah, it can be a really busy day.
Awesome.
Every day is different, which is fun because it's always like it switches it up and makes it fun, you know? So, yeah.
It is fun, though. It's worth it.
It is so worth it. Like I said, it's privilege, but like we asked and we dreamed for this. Like we prayed for this. So,
yeah.
So what advice would you give yourselves knowing now what you know? And you've obviously achieved that dream of being cheerleaders in college, and what would you say to your 15-year-old self, or someone who maybe is there in high school going, man, that's my dream. I just don't know how to get there.
Yeah. My heart, this is kind of tender for my heart because this actually never was my dream to be at BYU specifically. I told myself, growing up, I always wanted to be a college cheerleader. But I told myself I wanted to for sure get out of Utah and just go somewhere. I don't know, that was just in my high school mind, I want to get out, experience the world a little more. And then my senior year of high school, I tore my ACL and my world shattered. I did not know what to do. I didn't even know if cheer was in my future. So, yeah, dream crusher, I just didn't know what to do. It kind of threw my life into a place where, just of uncertainty and unknown. I was luckily able to recover, and that's actually when I met McKay, Doug's son. I got married, and I still was recovering, and then it just so happened that I ended up trying out for BYU miraculously. And I almost was like, okay, I'll just try this out for a year. I'm lucky enough that I'm back to being recovered from my ACL. But I was like, I'll just give this a shot, for a year. It's not, it wasn't my original dream, but this sounds amazing too, And I tried it out, and beyond my expectations, never could have dreamed this even up. It's so amazing. So I think that's, going back to your question of what would I tell that 15-year-old girl? Yeah, just know life is full of unexpectancy, but you're going to end up in a place if you work hard and if you set those goals, no matter what, you're going to end up at a place that's, farther better than you could even imagine, especially if, you have God by your side. So, yeah.
That's really cool. And one thing, if Dustin was here right now, he's my partner, especially for athletes. He also coaches high school football. So right now he's coaching. And he often tells young people, do not close the door on yourself.
Yes.
There are so many young people that, for fear of failure, close the door on themselves and don't try things. And they just assume, I probably can't do that. I tore my ACL, or I probably shouldn't even try out because what if it's almost like the fear of being rejected. They would rather not try than maybe be rejected. And we just plead with them, please don't close the door on yourself. And I just saw that in your story, Aislee, that
for sure. Yeah, don't close the door on things. Yeah, that you even just look past, you never know. Don't assume that something's going to be a bad experience, or don't assume that, that's not for me, because what if it is for you? I don't know. Yeah. I just couldn't imagine myself anywhere else now. I truly couldn't. So I'm just thankful that it ended up happening because, yeah.
So cool. Ammon, what would you say?
What would I say to my 15-year-old self?
If your 15-year-old self saw you as a cheerleader at BYU, what would he think?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, he wouldn't even fathom that I was at this point. But one thing I'm proud of my 15-year-old self. I'm proud of who I was in high school and what I was and what I was shooting for, And the reason I say that is because my dreams were to go out and to do, and really, and it comes back to football. I really wanted to play football, okay? And I went on a mission, served a mission. I came home, and that was still my dream. Like nothing changed. Like I just want to go play football. I love the sport so much, and I decided to walk on to a school. No offers, no anything. Just let me just go walk on. And I walked on at Snow College, and I'm grateful for Coach Zach Erickson for giving me a shot to be on the team, to be part of that, to feel like I was part of that brotherhood, that family. And by happenstance, I stumbled upon a guy on the cheer team, and the rest is history. I still love football. I was part of it, but it's exactly what you're saying. That door that I never imagined, someone knocked. And so I creaked it open. I looked, but I still love football. But then as soon as I opened it, man, it was like the warmth of after a long winter, came in and like totally made me realize, this is awesome. And my advice to 15-year-olds or my 15-year-old self is just be all in for whatever you go into, okay? Because at the end, you might not make the team that you want to make, okay? But that doesn't mean you should ever not be all in the journey, because you never know what can come from it. It's not just about making a team and not making a team. I was blessed to find another opportunity to use all the athletic talents and also the mental fortitude I was able to garnish from wrestling and football and weightlifting and put it into something else. And I don't know what that something else is for you guys, but I believe there's always something else. And whether that's athletically or in some other aspect of your life, going all in will help open those doors. And you can't shut them out. But if the door opens, you might as well just look into it. And that's what I did. I went all in with football, and it didn't end up the way I wanted it to, but it allowed me to get on another path that led me to where I am today. And it just happens to be cheer. It just happens to be at a Division I school, which helps. I'm living the dreams that I never imagined I had.
That's a good way to put it.
So I would just say go all in, and say exactly what you're saying.
Bob Cattell. I don't know if you've heard of Bob Cattell, but he's a well-known speaker that, goes around and speaks, very motivational. He spoke at one of our events, and he compared life to like the door at the end of a hallway full of doors is your goal. And as you work toward that door might remain shut forever, right? But every door you cross opens. And so by going toward one goal, you often open a bunch of other goals. And in your case, it's like you walk through one of those doors that open for you, and it leads to a place, a destination that you never even thought up in your mind. You never even thought of. Like you said, I love that. The dream you never knew you had might be behind one of those other doors that you open up. And that's a beautiful way to put it. So cool. Really, really cool. Okay, can I transition to... I'll make this a little more rapid fire. You two are very thoughtful. I could talk to you for hours, it feels like. So thank you. Thank you. So on being resilient and overcoming difficulty, I'm sure in cheer, in football, Ammon, there's these moments where you do experience failure and difficulty and opposition. What have you learned in your personal journeys about how sports can help you build resiliency in your life? And also just what have you learned that has helped you be resilient and respond to failure in healthy ways that lead to growth?
Want me to go? Okay, I'm going to go back to my ACL injury again because it truly shaped my character, and I am who I am today because of it. But in those darkest times where uncertainty, right, I have just never been in that position before. I was just, my typical day was running around. I mean, kind of like how our schedule today, it was just constant on my feet, go, go, go. It was the first time in my life that I slowed down. And so I really had to rely on just pushing through uncomfortable times. But it was so crazy to see that during those most uncomfortable times was when my character built the most. When I recognized other people around me who had gone through the same thing and now I could connect with them. Or, let me think here, just having that. I mean, I was physically injured, right? But it was physically and even more so mentally a recovery that I had to go through. And so for my brain to rewire and to understand that, okay, I can go from not being able to walk to now fully being able to run again, that is so same thing happened in my mind, right? Like, okay, I'm going from all this uncertainty to like, okay, now the world is in my grasp. I have so many more opportunities than I did before this injury. So just I would say, using your trials as triumphs, because they 100% can be if you choose to let them. So no matter what point in your life that you're in whatever aspect that you're hanging low, like just use those times. I promise, like be patient, be resilient, and I promise that there's going to be light at the end of the other side of that tunnel, brighter than you can imagine, like we were talking about. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Ammon.
Yeah, overcoming failure, especially how overcoming it through like my sports. And I never really thought I've compared cheerleading with wrestling and football many times. And in the competitive aspect, in practices and whatnot. And I see that, and I've learned, and that's what I love so much through my experience and everything, and being able to look back and reflect on it, that failure it should not be the end. Failing one time should never be the end. Because if I were to fail, if I were to stop stunting or trying to hit a stunt after failing over and over and over and over, then I would never be able to get it. And one of those stunts, some of the stunts, all the stunts, I've had to go through so many repetitions of inconsistency, failure, not hitting it well, to finally understand and getting a grasp for it. And it's the same thing, let's just say, with weightlifting. Man, you put so much weight under you, and there's something called going to failure. You just go, and you go till you can't go anymore. And it doesn't mean that you're strong. You're literally building yourself up only if you continue. If you don't go back, if you're not persistent, then that failure will do more than just a physical toll on your body. It'll all be with your self-esteem, your self-image. So failure should never define what you think of yourself. And I've seen it so much in my own life. If I were to stop at the face of failure, man, I would not be where I am today.
I know these are rapid fire, but I want to add one more thing with that.
Hey, I'm doing rapid fire for your sakes. I don't know how much time you have, so please talk as much as you want.
This. Well, just so important. Failure doesn't change your worth. In fact, I think it can allow you to discover your worth. But nothing about your worth will ever change if you fail. But it can allow you to grow. So.
Overcoming and accomplishing something that you have consistently failed at before is one of those things that empowers you so much, that makes you realize, wow, I can do more. I am more. Look where I am now. So that's why failure is important. It
makes you not afraid to fail, because then you're like, okay, I'm learning.
But it's so hard to go through that. Like, naturally, no one likes to fail, but it's important.
Yeah. We've often said that if you haven't experienced failure, then you don't yet know your limits, right? I mean, it's that bumping up against failure when you start to say, okay, here's where I can start to grow. But if you haven't taken enough chances or put yourself in situations where you've experienced failure, then it's hard for you to know exactly what you could become. And playing life safe will never lead to the best life. And so that's really great. Thank you both. Now, okay, this is something that I am so excited to talk to the two of you about. And we have this principle called compete without contempt. You don't need to hate your opponent to compete against your opponent. And we love sharing this quote from G.K. Chesterton. We see this embodied a lot right now in BYU football. Coach Kalani Sitake talks about this a lot, that love and learn is their mantra, right? And G.K. Chesterton said, the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. And I just love that quote, that so many people, it seems they try to use hate to motivate, right? Instead of love, like love of my teammates, love of my school, love of my community, love of you two represent a school that is a faith-based institution, love of my faith and being a representative of that. And there's so much love that could be our fuel that we shouldn't have to tap into hate. And you're in the business of helping a crowd impact a game, right? Lavelle Edwards Stadium and the Marriott Center, for example, are legendary for being home court and home field advantages because the crowd is just so intense. I mean, every broadcast you see, they're talking about this place is nuts. Like people can't even hear themselves. And you're part of producing that, right? I'm thinking of young students and the student sections and the cheerleaders and the creating traditions at school. What if you found that helps create such a positive, loving, but super competitive environment versus one that's full of hate and vitriol? Does that question make sense to? So I would love to know your thoughts on creating that loving but intense competitive kind of environment instead of a hate-filled environment.
Yeah, I think a great example, and you brought it up. I mean, he's done such a good job at building the culture and community that BYU athletics is in football, because Kalani Sitake, he's like one of the greatest coaches in the country when it comes to exactly what we're talking about. And I feel like because he's the embodiment of what we want to be as a fan base at the games, I think when people go to watch BYU and we watch them play football, they are always reminded as well of the message that Kalani has said to his team, what he set out to Cougar Nation. And so they have that in the back of their mind. We want to go, we want to win, but we also want to do it with love. And I think that motivates our fans. That motivates our student section to be intense, to be in the game. But at the end of the day, understanding that it's all about doing it with the love for the people we're going against.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to go off gratitude a little bit here, just because I love talking about gratitude. But personally, I feel like when you have a grateful heart for what you're doing, for the people around you, right, for the environment you're in, it's impossible to lead with hatred. So in the example of the football game again, or even just us competing with cheer, when I'm grateful for just the experience I am in the moment, looking at the mountains, right? Just being there with all the people, like we're so. When I'm thinking in that way, it's impossible to lead off of hatred, and then in that way, it's not like all competitiveness is lost. Like you can still work hard, right, and do your best. I think we ultimately feel our best when. Maybe, yes, a win is so nice, but I think we ultimately feel our best when we perform our best. And so, I don't know, I just think gratitude has a lot to do with that, because a grateful heart takes away hatred.
Yeah, what's it mean at the end of the game? What does the win, what does the loss mean? I think it comes down to, it's just, might sound funny to say, what we really believe in our heart about the people we're competing against. What do they mean to us? Again, on the field, they're our competitor. But win or lose, we will still be just as nice to them on their way out as they were on their way in.
Because what really matters in life, like at the end of our lives, what's going to matter? How we treat people, how we made them feel, I think is what matters most. So,
yeah. Awesome. One last question for you. I told you that the heart of our program is using our position as athletes to help and lift those around us and to be good examples. Aislee, maybe I'll start with you because I've seen having all girls, going to even BYU sporting events, having girls that were dancers and that ended up, two of them dancing in college and doing a lot of what the two of you do. I would go to games to watch football, but I would notice my daughters were always more interested in the cheerleaders and the Cougarettes. when it went to commercial break, and the cheerleaders or the Cougarettes would come on the field, that's when, oh, look, the Cougarettes are out there, and they wanted to go get sodas during the game, right? And so, but I've seen the impact like a BYU cheerleader like yourself could have on little girls that look up to them, that admire them. And I would just wonder first, what has that been like for you to be in that spotlight? And I'm sure you have a lot of little girls that come up, want to take pictures with you and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then how have you been able to use your position to help and lift people?
Yeah. Okay, wow. I love this question. Those little girls are my why. Like, that's why I do what I do. Like, I could get emotional from that. Just because they see this almost perfect face, especially as a cheerleader, right? I've got full face of makeup on. And I don't know, it always makes me emotional even when I'm taking pictures and people are looking up to me, because I'm like, little do they know, I'm just a normal human. Like, I have my fair share of problems. I have those nights I'm crying. I'm just an ordinary girl, And they almost look up to me like I'm just this ball of just light, And I don't know. I just think I hope that I can give off a lesson to those little girls that, like, they can chase after their dreams, though, and accomplish something amazing and be able to put on that uniform, someday. Or that uniform may be just their task of life, what they choose to do with their opportunities. We really do have so many opportunities to serve and to lift each other up, especially in our positions as cheerleaders, just because we have a lot of little eyes on us. And so just being that example of light and kindness. We're always smiling, right? But, like, smile through life. Like, yes, we go through hard times, and yes, I'm an ordinary person that goes through trials, but we all can, I think, do a little better job at smiling through it, because, I don't know, life is precious. And so if we are grateful for those little things and happy for where we're at, then yeah.
Yeah. Aislee, another question, and then I'm coming to you, Ammon. Someone might look at you and think that girl's probably felt zero insecurity in her entire life. But you've been a teenage girl. You know how it's easy to look around and compare. And I imagine that, like my own girls, you've experienced your own insecurities, your own moments of doubt. What would you say to a young person who's battling that right now? And I'm not saying we ever fully get over it and grow out of it completely, but it is maybe a time of hyper intensity during high school. Anything you would say to girls who might listen to this?
I think that relying on your community and connections with others is so important, because you're so likely to feel alone in those circumstances. And for girls, I mean, everyone, but especially girls struggle with insecurities, I think, maybe a lot more sometimes than men. But, don't do it alone. Like, there is so much joy that can come from, or even help that can come from reaching out to other people your same age or people you look up to, because if I get a little girl reach out to me, like, I will not hesitate to tell her, like, to give her hope and to share my insecurities, But reaching out to other people makes you realize that you're not alone and that we can do this together, right? We're all in this together. So I'd say reach out, and then from there, just, be confident and know that it's okay. It's normal to have those feelings, because the worst thing you can do in those situations is like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me because I'm having these feelings. Like, it's normal. You're human, but do it together.
Yeah, I love what you said.
People.
Yeah, you not only reaching out to others for help, but reaching out to others to help. I had my daughter, who's a senior in high school right now. I think a lot of people would look at her and think, "Oh, she doesn't have any insecurities. She doesn't have anything like that." Obviously, like all of us, she does, and she said something. She was invited to speak in a church meeting on service, and she said, "It's hard to feel self-conscious when you're being conscious of other people."
I love that so much.
And I was like, wow, that's profound. And it really touched me to think about that I've never really been trying to help someone else and feeling self-conscious at the same time.
So true. Yeah, I love that.
So I love what you're saying. You reach out. You need to have people in your life you could reach out to and say, hey, help me. But also, those same teammates that you think have no insecurities, they probably do. Yeah. So reach out to them and make them, instead of worrying about whether you feel beautiful, smart, talented, whatever, if you leave your door and say, I'm going to try to make other people feel beautiful, smart, talented, whatever, it'll be hard to be self-conscious. So awesome. And Ammon, I've avoided this up to this point, but oh man, you make me laugh. You make me laugh. And for those who maybe see this and haven't put two and two together, so Ammon is Uncle Bub on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
I have laughed so hard at some of your videos that I've had to gather people to, you have a little fan club of people just laughing so hard at some of the stuff that you do. If anyone listening to this doesn't know what we're talking about, just go to TikTok, or are you on Instagram too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And search up Uncle Bub and just watch. And you could be entertained for a couple of hours.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
But you also use your platform. It's fun, it's wholesome, it's good, it's encouraging, and every now and then you'll even throw in a little, hey, I had this thought, and it's not the funny type of thing. It's like, I want to share something, Why is it important to you to use whatever platform you're given to try to help and lift other people? Because to me, as I watch you, it seems like that's important to you.
Yeah. Like you said, when I post on social media, it's really everything about myself that I'm portraying, whether that's my humor or my spiritual side. And there's everything that goes into it. A lot of it is because it was just an experiment, just put stuff out there. And when people, they reach out to me and they appreciate, like you were saying, whether that's just wholesome content or stuff that's really making them feel better, whether that's guys trying to get guys into cheerleading or whatnot. I like to do it because I'm on social media and I see what's out there, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh man, this stuff, I'm watching it and I'm like, I always came back to my little siblings are on this same app, okay? And there's little kids everywhere, or there's families everywhere that if anything is posted, they probably want to see something good or wholesome. And so I decided I'm going to post stuff that is great to share, that people are willing to share, that people are willing to show other people. And I don't intend for any subtle meanings that, people wouldn't want to have their kids to learn about or anything like that. And it's just a great process that I've been able to have and experiment with, that I'm still learning, an awesome journey. And everything that has to do with it is just being myself and being uplifting, or trying to.
Well, I appreciate it. You have one fan in the world.
Two.
That's at least two on this call. Well, to the two of you, I just want to say thank you so much for joining this podcast and for sharing your own experiences and your own thoughts. We appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck in all your goals, all your endeavors, and we look forward to maybe doing some things with you in the future. We'd love to do some things together, and appreciate all that you do for the community and for the people that you are. And so thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're so great. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast. As always, keep your eyes up and do the work.
Thank you for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast. To learn more about Especially for Athletes organization, get a copy of our book, The Sportlight, or to bring our program to your team, school, business, or organization, visit us at especiallyforathletes.org.